So let's get into these trends. We've got 3 outlined, but I suspect there'll be 10 within the 3 as these conversations tend to go. So the first one I think is the most interesting, and I would love to get your perspective on, and we'll do a bit of back and forth from both arenas of business and property, is technology.
Yep.
I think technology is the most interesting one we may cover today. What's your view, and we'll start with property, in how technology is affecting property?
Well, look, for a start, it's changing the game with how people invest. Like if you go back, say, 10, 20 years, 30 years or anything like that, the whole where should I invest in property? Why should I invest? It was a dark art. Like people just didn't know. They were just like, well, I don't know. I guess we just put our money in bricks and mortar and see what happens. There was no meaningful way. There was no meaningful way, unless you were a statistician or some, a deep researcher, like a career researcher. There was no meaningful way to realistically understand what you should do, where you should invest, and why. And I think there's a huge shift that's happened there. The reality is, whilst my view is that technology can only ever take you a certain distance when it comes to property. The reality is, though, when you can start looking at trend data for the last, say, 20, 30 years, applying that with artificial intelligence algorithms to give you leading indicators of where and why the next areas might be the best place to invest, it changes the game massively. Like it allows you to get a leading edge advantage, like where people like our parents just wouldn't have been able to. Like people like our parents would be like, firstly, why would I invest anywhere that is not somewhere that I could drive to? Secondly, how would I even know where to invest? And it was really just a big gamble. So I think now one of the biggest trends that I've seen is the property technology trend. Now that's not just in property research and data analysis and stuff, which I think is tremendously important. It's allowing us to pinpoint locations with much deeper accuracy. There's information that we can gather around, even a specific house that previously was unreachable unless you physically went there. So, I mean, just using one very simple example, one of the reasons that, one of the long-held beliefs why you would never buy a property sight unseen is because what if you bought somewhere and then you walked into the backyard and you could see like some big kind of electrical tower or some high voltage power line, and that was a real concern. It's like, how would you know? Like, how would you really know? Maybe there was just some, well, guess what? We now have like high resolution satellite imagery and we can zoom in and I can tell you what type of plant exists 300 meters from the back fence, let alone whether there's a power line. Not only that, we can see all of the underground services and navigate all that kind of stuff without having to get town planners involved. We can kind of do all of this stuff, and it's really changed the game and how we approach that. But then when you start thinking about property technology more broadly, it actually applies on many other levels as well. You got property technology integration with stuff like property management, with stuff like finance and things like that, and so there are a lot of different ways that technology is accelerating the capacity for investors to get ahead in a way that I don't see in other investment classes. Like I don't see that same kind of advancement in things like, I don't know, gold and even shares. There are artificial intelligence algorithms and stuff for shares, but I just don't think you can get the depth and complexity of understanding the root mechanics of what is actually going on with these assets that you're buying. So I think it's huge. It's been very beneficial not only to us individually, but also to all of our clients. There's a reason that a lot of people think that I'm talking nonsense when I talk about the fact that our clients are getting like 15% plus growth in the first 12 months, but it's not A, it's not made up, and B, it's not magic. It's just working out how to use technology to give us the information that we need to then be able to overlay that with human analysis to then make the right effective purchasing decisions. So I think it's huge.
I think it's huge as well. I'll give a couple of examples I think are interesting. I've bought a property in the last 12 months and we did a virtual tour. So we had you couldn't have done that previously. And I actually think this is going to become more common. I think this will be something that gives investors more confidence buying into state, for example. The second one is ANZ this year, which I probably shouldn't name them. I have much to say about this bank. But rather than being identified in person, actually Face ID'd me for my recent loan. And I was like, wow, they got that through quick. So these are like the little ones where I feel like some of the archaic systems are going to become a lot better. But I want to ask a question into this one, because this is probably what I think is the most valuable part of this. Everyone can accept technology is improving and getting better. From a investor point of view, what I'm curious about is, do you believe the uptake is common in investors, and does it give you an edge to be in front on the technology side in this space?
Yeah. So first answer is no, the uptake is not there. And second answer is yes, if you can utilize these resources, then it absolutely gives you a leading edge advantage.